Board of Education meeting as presented. So moved by Laura, second by Rich. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes. Moving into our presentations, Charlotte Avenue building report.
Okay, thank you for having us this evening. Thank you very much for having us this evening. Sorry, you know I have to say hello to people. Each of you have been given a purple folder, and inside of that you're going to have some samples of some of the work that we're going to be talking about, and you'll be able to see some of the student work, some information that's going to kind of just enhance what we're talking about in our presentation tonight. So, hashtag, this is CAS. This is the DNA of our building focus. If you will take a look around, you'll see when you walked into the building, you would also potentially see on our social media, this hashtag has been everywhere. And essentially, what does it mean? Well, it means who are we here in this building and what does it look like? So our building focus is talking about students, families, and staff who are collectively going to be working together and discussing what words and traits best represent us. If you take a look at what the students have written, you're going to see what does hashtag this is CAS means to me. You'll be able to see in the students' words themselves. All of this was built upon the foundation of the work that we did last year. So we talked about full steam ahead, which meant CAS, we're teamed, we're engaged, and we're motivated. We use this motivation and we use this foundation to create the plan that we have for this year. We are going to take a look at success criteria. The success criteria is based on all of these things. One of them being the level of involvement of students, families, and staff in our daily activities, and our incredible PTSA with all the events that they're doing and how they're bringing together this entire community. And we are proud to be a school of excellence, a national school of excellence. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the ones that are in purple, zones of regulation, the Let It Grow project, and the CAS buddy classrooms. And then we also are taking a look as part of our building focus is what we're doing internally, working together, and also ways that we're able to kind of track our students and to be able to have them working together as a group in this building with each other and with the staff. Zones of regulation. I have Andrea Serwinski, who is here with me this evening. She is our school counselor, and she's going to give you some information about the Zones of Regulation, which is a program that she has been doing an incredible job for now the second year.
So the whole Zones of Regulation started last year when all the elementary counselors, we wanted to do one thing that we were all doing consistency in every building. So we all wanted to start with kindergarten. So last year we started with kindergarten, and I loved it so much, and the students really enjoyed it, and I felt like they really got it. So I have then pushed into first grade as well. And then when different classes need it, I come in and do it too. So what the Zones of Regulation is it basically divides your feelings up into 4 different zones. The first zone is blue, and that is like when you're kind of feeling down, blah, you know, maybe you're bored, you're tired, so your energy level's a little low, you're not feeling very motivated. And when you're in this zone, you're feeling slow moving, and it's a good time where maybe you need to rest, you might need to recharge, and you know, maybe you're not feeling well. So that's the blue zone. The green zone is happy, calm, focused. You're feeling great in this zone. This is a zone where, you know, you're ready to go to school, you're ready to learn, work together. This is where you're feeling the best and really where you want to be. Yellow zone, your emotions are getting a little bit higher. Your energy's getting a little bit higher, so you might be excited, frustrated, silly, worried, and you're not really losing control, but your energy is definitely getting higher. So you might be a little wiggly, having a hard time sitting still in class. So if you're in this zone, you know, we teach the kids that they want to pay attention to how they're feeling and they want to slow down. So take note of how they're feeling and where they're going. And they want to, you know, you want them to slow down, and we teach them different kind of strategies, or I do, in each of the zones. The red zone is when you are just kind of out of control, Your energy is so high, you need to stop, find an adult, and again, I teach them strategies as to what to do in each of the zones. So it's just a really great way for the kids to identify where they're feeling, and then I go over different strategies in each of the zones. The other topics that we do with zones is we do expected and unexpected behaviors. So like an expected behavior would be when you're sitting on the bus, you're sitting in your seat. An unexpected behavior would be if somebody's standing on the seat, and then we talk about how that impacts the other people, like how does that impact the bus driver? You know, how is he feeling when you're standing and doing an unexpected behavior? So I do talk about that. I talk about how big are your problems. So how, you know, if you have a paper cut, you know, is it something that can wait a minute? If the teacher is, you know, talking to somebody, can you wait a minute? Or is it a huge problem and we need to call 911? So we go through, you know, all the different levels of how big are your problems. So I go into each of the kindergarten and first grade classes 2 times a month through the entire year. And I do know that the kids are picking up on it, so they'll see me in the hallway and they'll be like, Mrs. Serwinski, I'm in the yellow zone right now. So,
That's great.
or, you know, one time we had a late bus and I was with them and they're like, I'm in the red zone right now. But then as soon as the bus pulled up, they informed me they were now in the green zone. So, you know, they do definitely, I think they get it. I would love to eventually be able to get into more classes, but eventually, hopefully I will, because it's just great language for the kids to hear, especially the expected and unexpected behaviors. I think they're really, they're starting to get that. So that is the zones.
Andrew will be back with us in just a minute to go another program. But in between, we are talking about our CAS Buddy program. So this past summer, when we were coming up with our building plan, we were kind of talking about the different things that we were recognizing and things that we wanted to improve upon. And one was cafeteria behavior, okay? So we know that kids sometimes can get very excited. We know they can get a little bit loud. We want to find ways to make sure that it's a pleasant experience for everybody involved so they can relax, they can enjoy, and they can socialize. So when we were taking a look at the different grade levels and the different groups that were in there, we wanted to make a few changes. And part of that, we wanted to develop stronger relationships with the kids. So if they're in the same grade level, they have a tendency to know who each other's are. But we wanted to provide for different grade levels to provide role models. So we have kindergarten and 4th grade, 1st and 5th, 2nd and 3rd. And those are the 3 different times that we have. So what could we do with 4th graders and kindergarten kids where hopefully the 4th graders could be a good role model for the kindergarten students, and then the students who are in kindergarten have people that they can look up towards. So how are we going to do that? Are you going to be able to do that just during your cafeteria time? Not really. Some could take place, but not to the level that we were looking for. So the teachers that I was working with over the summer said they wanted to do a buddy program. What are you talking about? So what they talked about is having multiple times throughout the year that we would have a designated time every couple of months where those grade levels would get together and they would do some sort of a project, they would do some sort of an activity. So we've had kids who went out to the playground together, we had them doing crafts together, and the classroom teachers are the ones that are coordinating all of this. So they have really enjoyed this time together. The teachers have absolutely loved it, and all this credit goes to the teachers for them planning it and putting it all together and the great work that's taking place with the kids. And in the cafeteria, we're starting to see some positive results. And with that, I'm going to ask for Jess Reyna, who is the president of our PTSA. She's also a parent here at Charlotte Avenue and our cafeteria monitor as well. So she wears multiple hats so she can speak to this with great proficiency.
So I feel like I might have the best job in the building because I am probably one of the only people that gets to see every K through 5 student every day. We start with our 2nd and 3rd graders, we go into 1st and 5th, and then we have kindergarten and 4th. To speak to what Andrea is talking about though, I gotta say, the zones of regulation, while the kids don't use the colors with me, it has been really apparent that they've learned how to advocate for themselves and speak to how they're feeling, because at times, if it is too crazy, they'll come up to me and say, my brain feels like crazy. I need to get out of here. So we've had kids go sit and eat lunch with Mrs. Lango in her office because they need a quieter space, maybe one-on-one connection. But in the cafeteria, we've had them sitting with their grade level, with their class level, and then for about a month, we had them sitting mixed together. So it was a mixture of the 2 grade levels during their time. Initially, I think the older kids might have thought it was a punishment, and I think the younger kids were wondering what they should do with these big kids. What do we talk about? But then you see these unexpected connections being made by some of the kids that maybe you didn't think were going to, which I think is the best part about this. Some of the boys that you think that they only want to talk about like Fortnite and gaming, and then all of a sudden they're talking with a kindergartner about how they went out and they were riding their scooter. And they're like, I rode a scooter when I was in kindergarten. It's the really simple things, and they kind of break it down, and it goes to like these basic levels of connection. It expands on from there, but I think we saw when we split them back and put them back with their grade levels, I had 5th graders who were like, when can we sit with our buddies again? When can we sit with our 1st grade buddies? When we talk to them as a group, we try to stress upon the older kids that you guys are setting a good example. Like if you're doing the right thing and you're doing the behaviors that we expect of you, then you're setting a good example for these younger kids, and that's what they're gonna remember. Because sometimes when an adult tells them, they're like, that's the adult. But when they see an older friend, a neighbor, someone who walks by them in the building and gives them a high five or a hello, that sticks with them. That is something they carry on, and if you live in this neighborhood or you've seen this neighborhood, you know that that park is it's just like this common area where we all meet. So when the kids meet here and they form those connections, they take that outside of this building. I gotta say, I just think that what happens in here it flows out into every aspect of this building. These kids are making friends, they're making connections. It's my friend's sister, it's my neighbor down the street, it's people maybe they didn't know that they knew, and all of a sudden there they are. But I just think that overall, the way this building and the people in this building really stress those relationships and want to make those connections so that the kids feel connected to more than just their teacher or their classroom. Wherever they go in this building, they feel a connection and they feel seen, they feel respected, they feel important.
Okay, what is the Let Grow Project and why did we start it? So if you took a look out in the hallway, you'll see this display is out here. Spread your wings and see how far you can fly. Over the summer, the administrative team read the book, The Anxious Generation, and it was great to be able to go through this and get a sense of what is taking place with our kids these days and what are the things that they're facing and some of the things that we need to help to address to help them to be successful. And one of the programs that was in this book was the Let Grow Project. So after doing some research on it, it was like, this is something that we really have to invest in, taking the time and really trying to go through and make sure that we're providing this opportunity for all of our students. So you'll see the picture with our staff in the bottom corner. Every Halloween, the Charlotte Avenue staff does a theme. So this year, it was anything with wings, because it was our way of talking about spreading your wings and see how far you can fly. And Andrea is also doing that in addition to the zones and going into the classroom. So the connections that she's making with the kids across this entire building is on a regular basis, which has also been wonderful because we know the best way to be able to address a concern is to get it as early as possible. The earliest way to get it possible is having these relationships and having these resources available, and it's right there in the classroom. So we're not waiting for a child to have a difficult time. They're already getting this ability to have communication with someone like Andrea and other people in the building. So
this actually has been great, as Danielle said, because for Let It Grow, I get into every single classroom, kindergarten through 5th. So every month I'm in there for 15 minutes, once a month, and it has been absolutely amazing. The program is great. I love it because it also gets me into the classroom on a regular basis. The kids really get to know me, I hope, and then if I have to see them about something, sensitive or difficult, I already have a connection with pretty much most of the students. So the program is wonderful. What we want to do is we want to build the kids' confidence and independence. So the first month, that's what the topic was. Danielle and I went into all of the classrooms and we talked about the importance of confidence and independence and leaving your comfort zone. So we talked about what that means, the importance of it, and we had every single student talk about what they did and how they could do it, and the kids really took it to heart, and so many of them tried so many new things. So you each have a picture with a student, and each one they're holding up something saying what they did. And it was as simple as trying a new food, maybe trying a new trick, a new sport, a lot of roller coasters. I don't really know why, but so that was like the first time. The second visit was talking about spreading our wings. So they went out of their comfort zone, and now we want to build on it. So maybe you made a snack or you made a meal for your family. You know, maybe now you can do it every week, or maybe you fed the dog once a month. Now maybe you can build on it, and you can take the dog for a walk. So we wanted them to spread their wings and do something more. Then we talked about service. What does service mean? And how can they help out around the house? What kind of chores, you know, how are your parents going to be so excited when they see you doing something without being asked? And then the last one, which I think has been one of my favorites so far, was thinking outside the box. So everybody has a squiggly line that looks like this. I went in all the classrooms. We talked about what does thinking out of the box mean, you know, why is it important? And I asked them to draw a picture with that squiggly line, and I gave them like 3 or 4 minutes. This is, you know, kindergarten through 5th, and I think the designs are absolutely incredible. I could not get over how many different ideas there were and how creative. I know, like, when I was in school, I don't think I would have come up with any of the things they did, but they were really fun, and they loved sharing. And they really understood what thinking out of the box meant. So that one was probably one of my favorites.
Oh my
Yeah, there
God.
was a lot of elephants, there were turtles,
That's great.
dinosaurs, a cat. I mean, I just think that they were so incredible, and they thought of them so quickly. Like, I couldn't get over how amazing and creative they were. So that was a lot of fun. When we talk about Let Grow, though, it's not just you know, out of your comfort zone, but we want them to also understand that it's okay if you try something new and you're nervous about it, it's out of your comfort zone. It's okay if it doesn't go well. You know, you're not going to master something the first time you do it. And, you know, we go all the way back to like when they're first starting to walk. You know, they didn't just get up and walk right away. It takes a couple falls, it takes a couple tries. You know, because we want them to really try new things and not being afraid of not succeeding. So we build upon that quite a bit. We also talk to them about, you know, how can you encourage your friends if you see that they're struggling? What can you do? How can you help? So, I mean, they're definitely, they definitely are getting it. I absolutely love hearing the different stories. Today I had a girl who I thought was going to be coming to help today, and she was talking about how she was really nervous about trying out for, I think it was Erie County Chorus. And she really wanted to do it, but she was really nervous about it, so she stepped out of her comfort zone. She did it, and she made it. Now, obviously, you're not always going to make it the first time. You know, there's going to be falls and stuff, but, you know, she was really excited that I think she felt encouraged to step out of her comfort zone, and I think this program is really easy, it's simple, short conversations, but I think that they're really getting a lot out of it, and I absolutely love going to the classroom, so. I thank Danielle for encouraging me. I was out of my comfort zone.
Doing this is out of her comfort zone, so Andrea's absolutely spreading her wings. She's like, you want me to do what and where, in front of who?
And then I was surprised there were so many people here. But before I do finish though, I do want to show off my sweatshirt, because it does say hashtag this is CAS. So this is part of, I think, who we are here, and it's just, we all have them, and it's just a great place to be. That's all. Am I forgetting anything?
No. And it's progress over perfection. That's the other thing that we're really hammering in with the kids, because we don't want them to feel like at first they don't succeed, so they just give up. We talk about keep trying. So, and that's what the learning process is all about.
And Danielle and I shared a lot of different stories from our own.
Oh, yes, we did. Oh, yes, we did.
About our failures and, you know, what we learned from them. So it was
Yes.
great.
The kids love hearing all of that. They look at you and they're like, wait, you couldn't do that? So that's a great opportunity as well for us. So the last two slides I have for you this evening are really important to me because at the beginning of the year staff meeting, when we started talking about hashtag this is CAS, we asked for everybody to fill out a sheet and just basically tell us, what does this mean to you? So then it was put into this format here, and the largest words are the ones that were most common across this building with the entire staff. The number one, family. Then take a look at genuine, welcoming, creative, organic, belonging, kindness. You're just taking a look at all of these things. This is how our staff views each other and this community, which I think is extremely important and very, very special. This one was from our 4th grade kids. So it's one thing when you have the staff saying something. So 4th and 5th grade did the same thing. We had them coming into actually here, went through and had a conversation with them about what does this mean to you? And these are the words that they came up with. Then, like I said, you have those examples of the things that they filled out, so you got to see some of the things that they said. But if you take a look at the big words, friends, fun, kindness, us, school, together, happy, this is what we want for our kids. Does that mean it's them 24/7? No. But is that the foundation? Yes. So, any questions? Thank you for giving us the time to be able to share.
Thank you.
That was great, thank you.
Okay, moving on to our initial 25-26 budget presentation. Christine?
So this is really just a preliminary start of the budget process. We don't have a lot of information in January, but I'll share with you what we do have. So what I'll go over is the Foundation Aid study, the New York State budget process, our school aid runs, the Board of Regents priorities for next school year, the ongoing preparation meetings, and then next steps. So if you remember last year, the budget called for the Rockefeller Institute to conduct a study to assess the state foundation aid formula. It was old, antiquated, used data from 2 decades ago. And then to discuss modifications and how the formula would work. So the study incorporated stakeholder meetings, public hearings, and via online forms. And then it resulted in a 314-page report of recommendations. So there's a lot in it. There's a lot of graphs and recommendations, and then the way the state should calculate aid and distribute aid to school districts across New York. The recommendations are a menu of options for policymakers to consider now and in the years to come. Obviously, they can't do everything at once, and it will take some time for some of these. And then the report's recommendations are not binding, so the governor she can choose not to take any of them, or she can pick and choose which ones she likes.
I would assume they can also be modified and stuff. Again, this is just a guideline.
This is just a
So it's not.
So they'd have to cost everything out and see how it affects. When you change one piece of the formula to help one district, it may hurt another, and they have to run the whole formula for every district to see what the impact will be. So it was quite an undertaking to get this done between wasn't April 1st when the budget came, it was a little late, but until December when this report was issued. So it was a lot of work. So some of the recommendations, I don't list them all, obviously it's a 314-page report, there's a lot in there. But to use rolling averages and multi-year phase-ins to improve predictability and reduce volatility, because right now we have no clue. As business officials, we have no idea from year to year what foundation aid is going to be from the state. Also to allow districts to temporarily retain up to 10% of their budgets as unrestricted fund balance if they have a spending plan for these fund. So right now it's 4%, and a lot of people are pushing to have it higher. I know like towns and villages, I think are 10% right now, but schools are still stuck at 4%. Create rules to trigger reductions to save harmless under certain conditions. So save harmless is that you get no less aid than foundation aid than you got the year before. Because some pieces of the formula, like maybe enrollment, would reduce your aid, but just because you're down a couple kids doesn't mean you could save money at all. And that was one of the big things that, you know, there's a decline in student population in New York State, but that doesn't mean, like, if a district lost maybe 20 kids district-wide, you can't cut a teacher because of that, because you're not reducing an entire grade level. It's the kids are scattered out, K through 12 or pre-K through 12. Replace the current measure of student performance, Regents exam data, with a 3-year average district-wide passing rate, which are level 3s and 4s on state ELA and math exams and grades 3 through 8. So if you have a, you know, you're not dinged if you have a really bad year. So this makes it more of an even playing field. Separate aid categories to address needs involving students with disabilities, geographic sparsity, and acute enrollment growth. The state should also fully underwrite the cost of mandated transition to zero emission buses, and the state should provide more funding for mental health services. So these are really the things that impact K-12 education. There was a lot more in there for higher ed. Okay. So the budget process, the study will be funneled through the political process. Some districts will benefit from some of the changes to the formula and others may not. It just depends on what's selected. Some recommendations are certainly more costly to the state than others. Any recommendation followed may take multiple years to phase in. The governor is required to submit a balanced budget to the legislature together with any legislation needed to implement the budget plan. I'll talk a little bit today about her State of the State address today that I watched. And then the legislature examines and critiques the governor's budget proposals, makes its constitutionally permissible changes, and then enacts a state budget, hopefully by April 1st. So there are 5 school aid runs released throughout the year. The first one is in November. SED, the State Education Department, transmits aid and projections to the Division of Budget and the legislature. We get our November runs from BOCES. They don't send them directly to school districts, so BOCES gives us some data. And then the governor's executive budget proposal for the following year is usually based on the district data in this file. So in January, the executive budget school aid runs come out, the governor's aid priorities and initiatives for the upcoming budget year come out. It's usually about the 3rd week of January. In February, State Education Department transmits the updated aid and projections to the Division of Budget and Legislature, and then they work on hashing it out. There's a lot of meetings and back and forth, and hopefully by April 1st, we have an enacted budget. And then final runs are given in May, and then obviously the school budget votes occur the 3rd Tuesday each May. So this is what some of the data, sorry about the transportation aid, every time we converted it to PDF, it moved numbers around. But as you'll notice from this year to next year, foundation aid is the same because the state and BOCES have no idea what is going to happen with foundation aid. So we're assuming save harmless, you get no less aid than you did the year before, so that number is exactly the same. Transportation aid is going up a little bit because our expenses always go up a little bit with Fisher Bus and the price of gasoline. Our building aid, you'll notice a big increase next year, and that is because that $1.67 million of aid will help increase the debt service on the expense side, principal and interest when we pay back the bonds and the bands of $1.97 million in 25-26. And you'll see that when we start getting into the expense numbers. BOCES aid is going up a little bit, and that we just get a percentage on the things that we buy through BOCES, mostly software. We have some student placements. High cost aid is going up a little bit because of some of our increased costs for students with disabilities. Hardware, software, library aid is going down just a tiny bit. That is really based on enrollment numbers. So total this year of state aid, $31,533,898 compared to next year's projection. At this point, we'll get better numbers as we go on. $33,836,926.
Is there a pattern to how it looks in November versus how it looks in April?
With the foundation aid number.
Yeah.
What we've seen in the past, Safe Harmless, or a due minimum increase of like 2%, 3%. So the rest of those numbers will not change significantly at all. The only time a number would change is like building aid. If you, this building aid number actually is not on the state aid report. This is a number from our fiscal advisor because we submitted for phase 1 of the capital project before the December deadline. You have until December 31st to submit for your capital project. So that wasn't in the November run, but I already know what, based on
That's an
our
easy, that's a
yeah,
non-disputable formula, that
yeah,
one, right?
yeah.
I got a question.
Sure.
Just for clarity, sort of like a plain English for me.
Sure.
You had talked about the building aid being like substantially, noticeably higher for next year, but that it's to offset like this basically incoming debt, essentially.
Correct, yeah.
So basically, don't get too excited about that because it's
Right, because our
basically going.
expenses are gonna be more than that
Yeah.
increase in revenue.
All right,
That's
I'm just
correct.
making sure I understand that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, as
don't
we,
get
as we complete projects and it gets submitted, that's when they start giving aid on it. And usually that takes, what, about 18 months or so from when we start a project to when we start seeing the aid flow on it?
Unless you get early aid, but yeah,
Right, in general.
Thanks.
so that's what we know as of today. And here's a little chart. Foundation aid isn't on there because it's, we know nothing, it's even. So you can see transportation aid is going up, building aid is going up significantly,
Thank you.
but so will the expense.
We listen.
BOCES aid is up a little bit, and high cost aid is just up a very tiny bit.
Thanks.
You're welcome. And so the Board of Regents set its priorities as well for 25-26. They're asking for a $2 billion increase in state aid. Some of the things in there are an increase to foundation aid, increase for formula enhancements, and increase in reimbursement aids like transportation and library and software and things like that. They're asking for $2.3 million to implement the Blue Ribbon Commission recommendations, that portrait of a graduate and all the changes that are around that. $1 million increase to expanding needs for bilingual education. $25 million to expand funding for UPK. They ask for this every year, and this one never happens. $53.8 million to increase the salary limit for BOCES aid. It's been stuck at that $30,000 forever. And then $65.4 million for education of students with disabilities, because those costs keep increasing and the percentage of students identified keep increasing. So we had budget meetings on January 12th with the principals and department heads to develop their budgets. The forms were due to the business office January 10th. So we have like a lot of the expenses in the budget already, just like what the teachers want. Principals and directors will then meet with the leadership team this Friday and go over staffing and wish list items. We will meet with BOCES on February 7th for all the services and placements that we have with BOCES, both Area 1 and Area 2. We will be meeting with our new health insurance consultant, which we'll talk about later, in early February to start develop our health insurance budget for next year. Our workers' comp consortium meeting, we're in a consortium with a lot of other districts to help contain costs and to spread risk among all those districts. That's scheduled for January 30th. And then SMEC, which stands for School Municipal Energy Consortium, those budget projections will occur in mid-February. If you've been watching the news, you will know that both electric and gas companies are asking for pretty decent increases. So don't be surprised when you see our gas and electric budget increase over this year. So what will happen next month? The February budget presentation should incorporate those January runs. It will include a draft of estimated revenues, including the property tax levy. It will outline what our pension expenses are, ERS for non-instructional, TRS for instructional folks, and then it will also include the workers' comp and utilities % increases or decreases. So next steps after that, complete all the salary updates. We'll have an enrollment presentation in March, so we'll see, what the staffing needs are. We'll calculate all the payroll taxes and pensions based on those salaries, enter BOCES, utilities, workers' comp, health insurance into the budget, our debt service, principal interest on our band payments and our bond payments for capital project borrowings, calculate the tax cap, estimate then sales tax, interest income, and then other miscellaneous revenues. That's usually like the last piece that happens, and then enter the state aid, the final state aid revenues when the runs are released in April. Again, April 1st is the due date. They haven't met that date in the last couple of years. What they say is they'd rather get it right than get it on time. So hopefully it's April 1st or very shortly thereafter. And any other questions? Yes.
More questions. The recommendation slide that you had presented earlier, are those the culminations of recommendations from your office? Or
No, those are from those public hearings and from what folks across the state put on the their online form of what they would like to see. There were also many advocacy groups like the NISCUS and NISBA and the unions, all asking for what they want. So what I did want to say that when I did watch Hochul's State of the State address, she did not talk a lot about school aid and did not mention foundation aid at all today. She talked a lot about giving money back to families. So you probably saw on the news, in her budget, she is going to ask for universal free meals at every school district in New York State, which is a great thing. So in her mind, that's putting $1,600 per child back in the parents' pockets, so they don't have to feed them breakfast or lunch. She talked about building more child care centers, youth mental health first aid, and free meals were the two things that had to do with schools. The other things were, new playgrounds, so kids aren't on phones, they have something else to do, new housing, and then $1 billion in a zero emissions economy. I don't know what exactly that means. She did not say paying for the buses, so we'll just have to
Take more than $1 billion.
Yeah.
And then,
Sure.
then also free community college. She mentioned that she wants.
I took a phone call, so I did miss something.
Well, that's
But I did see that on the news, like especially for certain professions, healthcare being a big piece of that.
Yeah. Yeah, you wonder, how she's gonna pay for all this and increase foundation aid to public schools.
I mean, wait and see. Their goals, not.
But still, there's something that, we should be working on. We should be forecasting. Have we forecasted our tax cap?
I have.
What is it?
Next month,
Wait for
Dave.
the government to run.
3.52% is the cap right now.
So
So,
forgive me for my ignorance. I don't know what that is. Say more about what that means.
So,
In context.
A school district has sources of revenues, the state
It's the
and
cap.
some federal funds and some grants and some the property tax levy, so
That's
what
it, that's the
homeowners
one,
are paying.
it's the big one.
So, if the levy was $40 million last year, then 3.52% increase on that would be the levy for this coming school year. It is, I will go over the like I did last year, if you were at any of the meetings, what those 7 steps are
Mhm.
along the way. We don't know one of the numbers, percentage, I'm just guesstimating.
Mhm.
So that's why I don't have it today, because we are still waiting for one of the numbers from the state. But I got the pilots from the IDA, so I have everything but one number.
I guess also I was curious, how does that compare? So to previous years, is that pretty consistent? Is that much more, much less in terms of context?
So I've only been here a year and a half. So
You're
I
right.
can't
I'm so
answer.
sorry.
And-
It's about in line with
Yeah.
what we've
I guess
we've
I'm also
done.
turning to,
And that's the cap.
That's-
I know there were some years where the board.
Some years
went
it's been
up
higher.
to
It's-
zeros.
I mean, we've had years when the tax cap calculation was actually negative.
ugh,
Yeah, of course it's to lose money.
So that happens when you have a lot of debt coming off, but not debt
Debt coming
on.
on.
So if you don't do a project, right,
Right.
and all your capital expenses are down, and
you kind of need to keep
so
going.
my goal is always level, right? So you no big surprises. You're not having swings like this, trying to keep debt service as level as possible.
As we've said before, up until 15 years ago or so, we really hadn't been doing a lot of projects. So when we started getting into the pattern we're in, we hit a year where we got a bunch of, there was a bunch of money falling off, just the way the calculation worked out. The tax cap was 0. I think those were the years when we got a bubble of aid. I think was when it happened. You weren't here, obviously.
I wasn't here. I don't know.
I think you're right. But having a consistent capital project plan where you're always in a 5-year cycle, so as you got debt, the bonds are maturing and falling off, you're replacing those with new debt, for the new projects, and that's going to smooth that one piece of the calculation. It'll be easier once we actually go through the tax cap calculation.
Right.
To see it.
Yeah.
That's a number that's been odd. And one of the other things I think, and it was noted in the, they note it, but they don't want to do anything about it, is the fact that New York State, we pay, what is it, 70% about of our of a school's budget is local funds, so local taxpayers. The other 30% is between state and other sources. If you look at other states, that number is reversed.
It's in the Rockefeller report.
It's, yeah, like I said, if you look at the report, and it lists it out, I mean, it's one of the things, like I said, they point it out, but they don't want to, fix it.
But the big thing is New York State spends about $30,000 per student, which is number one. We are the most expensive, but of course we have the 5 big school districts where most of the Rockefeller report is talking about. That would be, New York City, Buffalo, Syracuse, Rochester, and Yonkers, And so that's where 3/4 of the money goes. And if you read the Rockefeller report, they're talking about ELLs, sparsity is in their, rule, but they don't really seem to say what they're gonna do with that, I think that the fact that they mention who's gonna pay for these electric buses, I think that's that's something that we're all gonna be faced with quickly, The regional cost index, I think that's something, I just saw that one report where Western New York is getting a negative, and you're like, well, what does that mean, to us? And so this foundation formula, has to be fixed, I know 30 years ago when I was on the budget ambassadors, we could predict what the amount of money was coming in, with Ed Osborne. Probably no one here knows who Ed Osborne is.
I don't.
Oh, you don't. But and I think that predictability is really what we need,
Right.
You know, so that's, you know, and they see enrollment going down in New York State and the cost going up. And, you know, I think when we talk to our legislators, we have to explain to them that it still costs the same amount of money to run the school, no matter if we lose 30 students or, you know, or anything else, you know. So I think that that's something that, you know, we all have to work on, you know, so that our legislators know that, you know, we need more foundation aid, especially with the governor promising all these, you know, free community college, something, you know, you have to pay for that, you know. So that's, I thought that was a big one, you know. And she's talking free childcare, right, for everyone.
Yeah,
Is that-
she did mention that too.
Yeah.
Well, you keep saying free, I mean, it's subsidized, it's through the tax.
Well, that's, you know, that's not.
You said universal child.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
right,
get
but there's only so much money down in Albany, and you know where the first place they're gonna take it from is gonna be foundation aid to the schools, you know? We'll be back, you know, we don't wanna go back to, you know, the Como days, but, you know, look what the harm that did to, you know, public education, you know, so. I think it's something that, you
Interesting.
know, I don't think that many of those recommendations from the Rockefeller Institute will be, you know, because they got to do this budget now, you know? Are they really going to listen to all this, you know?
Well, these aren't gonna be in this budget. I
No.
mean, if anything, it'll be
Yeah.
for next, but who knows what they'll do.
They
It's,
might pick one or two.
yeah.
Yeah. That's
It's-
why I
it's-
think that, you know, this board should be well prepared, you know, in learning about the budget and how a budget is formed and everything else, you know? We might be a little remiss in only having our budget sessions lasting 30 minutes with a hard stop at 6:30. You know, other school districts have budget work sessions. We used to have budget work sessions. And maybe we should educate ourselves, you know, on FERPL, on ELL, on, you know, how a budget is formed. And maybe we should take the time to have one or two budget work sessions to educate ourselves on how a budget is formed. It's so important, you know, and I think that, you know, maybe us having, you know, an hour and a half as budget sessions and then a hard stop at 6:30, maybe that's not proper, you know, maybe, you know, I remember last year's budget, you know, maybe we better change things, maybe work on it differently this year and educate ourselves. So when someone comes up to us from the public and asks us a question on how a budget is formed, we know, you know, so, and everybody knows, you know, there could be members here, and myself is one of them, that needs to be educated more on how a budget is formed and how, you know, what the runs are from Albany, you know, what all those acronyms mean, you know, so maybe, you know, we're missing the boat and having an hour and a half for our budget workshops with a hard stop at, you know, 6:30. You know, maybe we should work on it a little bit harder. That's just an idea.
All right, Dave, you wanna hang out more? I'm totally game.
I think that, you know, hey, it might take some more time. It's just that, you know, you have so much, the Rockefeller report is 319 pages. Everybody here should read it twice and understands, because I don't think foundation aid, with the governor promising so much in her state of the state today, now I know she's not gonna get it all, but you know, where's she gonna take it from? She didn't mention the schools, so she's gonna take it from foundation aid.
Yeah. I mean, I know that she did talk about sales taxes revenues are up. Well, because everything is more expensive, food and everything else. Well, there's not tax on food, but paper supplies and all that. Also, with the casino gambling is another big revenue source, way more than they had predicted. And the third is cannabis. So those are revenues that they didn't have in the past, they have now, and are exceeding their expectations.
Well, you put something out there in terms
We'll see.
of taking a look at talking more, so that's
Well,
something that the board can have a
Yeah,
discussion
I
about.
remember when the lottery was gonna go to public schools, and that never
Right.
happened, you know?
Wow.
So,
Well, allegedly
Well,
does.
they claim we do.
Mm.
Well, it's not
Allegedly, we do.
100% by any means.
no, so.
Okay.
All right,
Thank you.
thanks.
Right, thanks, Christine.
Moving through our information items, just our board briefings, basically going over the minutes from the last meeting. Just a couple things on our tables for information. Future board meetings, Tuesday, February 11th, 6 o'clock budget session, then following will be our regular meeting at Union Pleasant. March 11th, our next regular meeting, budget session, followed by our regular monthly meeting at the middle school. And then the April meetings on the 8th. Again, budget starts at 7, followed by our regular meeting. Upcoming workshops and such. NYSBA Live Virtual Capital Conference on Friday the 7th. You can log into in that. Lobby Day for NYSBA, Wednesday 12th. And obviously, there's always education opportunities from NYSBA. There's a couple just small budget transfers for information. Moving on to our board committee individual reports. Start with the student rep.
All right, so I have a few things. First, the MLK food drive is this upcoming Monday on Martin Luther King Jr. Day, obviously. It's run by the high school's finance academy, and it's the 12th annual one, so pretty exciting. Drama clubs play. The 39 steps will be performed February 6th through 8th at 7:30. It's at 7:30 each night. And then the Community Free Store Committee, which you guys don't know about yet, but it's like an exciting idea I had for the spring. We're meeting for the first time this Thursday, and we're planning for a clothing collection, which we're going to collect these clothes and then turn it into a free store for the whole community to come together and like shop each other's clothes sort of thing. So it's like sustainability, spring cleaning, and it's just like going to be a good resource for people. It's going to be like a family event.
Cool.
So we have that coming up, a meeting on Thursday, and we don't have a date yet for the event, but because we're in like the beginning stages, but more to come. And lastly, for the days leading up to Valentine's Day, we're going to have candygrams, like a candygram station in the front foyer that we're going to sell during lunches and after school, so people can buy little candygrams for their friends, and we're going to deliver them to their homerooms. So on Valentine's Day, they'll like be surprised. So that's
nice.
it from me. Thanks.
Love school.
Right?
So did we talk about Boston Valley visit yet? I can't remember. No. We all went to Boston Valley, and it was great. That was actually, I think, my first real visit to Boston Valley. So it was wonderful. I love elementary schools. So props to Boston Valley. We got to visit in on the classrooms, and I think it was their, the fifth graders did like a check out my big projects. I don't remember precisely the context, but they all made Mesoamerican dioramas, and they were lovely. Loved them. Additionally, Transportation had their meeting, it was just last week. And we talked about the new GPS system, which is going to be great. I'm a big fan of making it easier for parents and administrators to communicate with bus drivers. And I know Lindsay is the big boss at Fisher Bus. She is very excited. I know there has been some issues with being able to communicate quickly. This should make it easier. As we talked about the last board meeting, it's going to be a lot easier to just have that information back and forth shared with the GPS system. So that's going to be really great. We also talked about the protocols for calling snow days and how that works, what rules are involved, just the protocol, and possibly making a public version available. So if people need it, they know how it works. So I know that's in the works. So love that there is a little bit more just like how the sausage is made, because I know people really like transparency. I love transparency. So that's all I got.
Dave?
I was at the transportation meeting with Mary, Miss Electric Bus over here, but,
Nobody talked more about electric buses than you did at this point.
but one thing that, I took away from the meeting is the McKinney-Vento rule, which refers to the homeless population, in the, the Hamburg hotels and in the area. We have one student that moved from there, I guess, to Niagara Falls, but we're still responsible for transporting that student. So we got a bus heading to Niagara Falls. We had 60 such students. It's up to 76 now. Certainly it's aidable, but organization-wise, it's a nightmare as they try to find, homes for these people to get them out of the hotels. We're still responsible. So if they're in Cheektowaga, Tonawanda, the city of Buffalo, we still have to provide transportation.
For our students.
For those students covered in the McKinney-Vento Act. So that's something that I think is a big challenge to Fisher Bus. They're handling it well, but sometimes those poor kids are on the bus for a very long time, and so that should certainly something that we hope will work itself out through the years, but it's something that they deal with all the time. And I'm very interested, in that. We've been asking for that GPS software for quite some time. So I guess they're going to start it this summer as a practice, and then put it in use next year. So that should be exciting for a parent to be able to track a bus, to get, the bus is going to be late, and everything else. So I think that's great. And otherwise, that's all I have.
Okay. With the group, I was at Boston Valley, it's always fun, and seeing the dioramas, especially the ones that wanted to do the sacrifices. Because
I think all of them.
not all of them, some of them did farming. Some of the girls did farming. All the boys did some game that at the end someone dies. We'll see, we're brutal. So that was great. I had an opportunity when in part of Mike's transition to Tom was to introduce him to Senator Gallivan and Assemblyman Rivera. So we took the opportunity to tour Armour with Senator Gavin and Union Pleasant with Assemblyman Rivera. I thought that was it was great. It was good. It was nice meeting them. It was good to see the handoff from Mike to you to build your relationship with those guys. The state has been a pretty good partner with us as far as giving us some bullet aid to help support specific projects, and it's good to show these guys a little bit of what their funds have done for us. Things like greenhouses, and I think there was some money from there from in the Giving Garden at Union Pleasant, up just amongst a few things. Also good is we're showing them, especially Union Pleasant, the things that we're doing there, and as we're lobbying for building aid and stuff, and the things that we lobby for, it's good just to get them into the schools to see what it's all about, and they're very appreciative there, and that was great to, like I said, to start that
Great time of year
relationship,
to
and enjoyed it, and that's what I got.
Okay. So my take on the Boston Valley building visit, obviously it was great, everything said. What I thought was really interesting was the diversity that we saw, right? We walked in and there was music playing in the halls, and apparently this is something they do all the time. The fifth graders greet the kids with music. We saw the science of reading from a kindergarten all the way through a fifth grade perspective, right? We'd walk in and the kids were learning the sounds of the letters, and then in the fifth grade they were reading to each other. It was just a great demonstration, and then of course science and art meets social studies with the Mayan projects and the various murders that we witnessed. Second, with respect to the IDA and the Land Development Corporation, so obviously it's still a difficult time for IDA projects, but many of the projects that come to the IDA at the moment tend to be more adaptive reuse type of projects, which also qualifies under IDA, so it's not necessarily exclusively a job creation incentive, rather it's, making use of what would otherwise be, slum and blight type of restoration projects. And we have, through the Land Development Corporation, we own that land that's adjacent to the gateway. So with both of those things said, obviously the IDA was keenly interested in, Sean in particular, what might happen around this potential moratorium. And so he was very involved in sort of lobbying for what he felt was the best interests of the IDA and in turn the school districts. And so I think he was pleased with the eventual outcome of that project or lack thereof. And then with respect to the Finance Academy, so Tom and I are both also on the Finance Academy board. So this is an exciting time for the Finance Academy. They're entering, as Emma mentioned, the Martin Luther King Day fundraiser, which is a big initiative for them. If you feel like bringing in some food, it would help Mr. Lauer a lot, because if he loses, he has to, what does he have to do?
Well, it was like
Shave
me
his
last
head or
year. I had to
something,
wear Frontier gear as
Oh,
you
it's wear
wave to the middle
Frontier
school
gear.
kids coming in, which is
terrible.
harrowing.
Okay.
Worthy cause, but
Yes.
we took it on the
Somehow
chin.
the middle school principals get wrapped up in that.
Yes, we do. They do.
Yeah. Change.
But it's also, so next week they do, there's a class that the juniors take called BEEP, which is, I don't know if BEEP stands for something, but it's basically a career and college readiness class. And they do their interviews next week. And I find with the juniors, because I mentor 8 or 9 of the students, and I don't know if you find this, it's sort of where they come out of their shell, right? All of a sudden they learn how to communicate and they have a lot more confidence. And so it's a big, in my perspective, an inflection point for that Finance Academy. So I'll be participating in those interviews next week, and that's one of the highlights of the year for me. So wanted to mention that. That's all.
I'll echo what my colleague said about the Transportation Committee. I was also at that and excited about being able to track your child or see what's happening with the buses and that new feature that's going to we're going to have. I have Parent-Child Connection that's coming up this week. We have our anxiety workshop that I believe is January 28th.
Correct.
And Boston Valley, what resonated with me was I loved the music and seeing the student greeters, but I guess it kind of goes right along with the presentation that you guys gave, which was wonderful. I enjoyed sitting with the kids at their breakfast time and seeing the different ages connect with each other and hearing their conversations, and many of them saying how they're very rushed in the morning and that they look forward to that time, that few minutes before class, to be able to eat and share with their friends. A couple of them were saying, yeah, I was in a really bad mood this morning, but then I got here and I felt better after I ate, and now I'm ready to go to class. And your zones of regulation, I love that. It goes right along with all our mission statement and everything that we talk about as far as wanting our students to be connected and valued. But also, I love the fact that our kids in kindergarten are learning those vocabulary words, and also that mental health is so not stigmatized in our district. I feel like at every grade level, our kids know that if they need something or they see their fellow student who might need something, they know exactly where to turn, who to go to, and it's because of being in and out of the classrooms and recognizing how important those connections are for kids and with adults in the building. So thank you for that. And our facilities meeting I had right before this, and we'll hear from them and the construction team in a little while, because I could never do what you guys do.
Nothing to report.
Ashley?
All right. Also at Boston Valley, it was wonderful. I won't regale you with the same tales over and over again, but I really did enjoy the 5th grade presentations as a part of the day. Some of them were really out of the box thinkers and very creative, and it was a truly enjoyable visit. Can't wait to do the next one. PCC, Laura said we have an anxiety management workshop at Armour on the 28th of this month at 6 p.m. Super Bowl is coming up Wednesday, February 5th at Hamburg Middle School, and we do meet again this Thursday, so maybe we'll have more for our next meeting on that. PTSA update. Our PTSA meetings always have so much to update, but I'll give you the highlights. Our student rep Max updated us. The Christmas cards for soldiers were a big success. They're planning the senior breakfast for 252 grads, I believe he said. Student government scholarships are being discussed. He will have more to come. And they are working on changing the photos near the stairwell. So I'm getting a nod from over there. So clearly that's something.
Oh, like the ones going up the stairs?
I think like throughout the whole school, but
Yeah.
specifically some of those ones are really old.
Yeah, they've been up a while.
The
Yeah.
top by the library?
You
That
seem
person's
proud.
30 now.
Wait,
I don't think they're that old.
did you say Hitler?
When you're both a picture as a student and on the Wall of Fame, I think it's time to start up.
Well, we do like a
yeah.
few each year. That's why.
Yeah. So that seemed like it was, I don't know, something to look forward to, something new
sure.
and interesting there. Our elementary schools all reported back certain things. Armour had a great Merry Moose shop, and they have some events coming up this month. Boston Valley, same, great Merry Moose Day. We got to see that a little bit when we were there. It's quite an undertaking, and they do a wonderful job with it. CAS has Health and Wellness Night coming up. Union Pleasant is doing a math bee instead of just a spelling bee this year to appeal to our different types of learners and our students with differing abilities there. So they're trying out a math bee, seeing how that goes, and they have their winter carnival coming up. Middle school talked about Candygrams, which I guess high school is doing as well. And they said their turkey trot was a great success, which I know we had already heard, and they're planning a winter chill out and dance. Our high school talked about the scholarship committee continuing to do their work. They were awarded a Connect with Kindness grant and going to be working on PCC with that. And they are planning a chicken barbecue for the spring. That's it.
Okay. And the one thing that I just realized that I didn't mention that we got was also in addition to the high school's drama club, also the middle school musical is at the end of the month.
Okay.
We sponsored it. I put a page in for the Board of Education.
Thank you. Moving on to our capital project update from our construction partners.
So real quick, before we just run down the pictures we have there up on the screen, some highlights from the report that every board member has. No new project issues or concerns to update on, but some schedule milestones that we've reached over the last few days, or we will be reaching within the next 90 days. All the elementary school audits, music rooms in our classrooms are either occupied or can be occupied at this point. Few miscellaneous changes, just waiting on casework and some updates to a few things in these rooms. Otherwise, those are complete. We'll actually be having a walk next week with our design team, Gordon Jones, us, and the administrators to just kind of close out what's remaining in our punch list in some of these spaces. And then coming up here, come springtime, we'll be targeting select structural work and mechanical work throughout the high school, mainly on our winter breaks and the Easter spring break. Also to highlight just the maintenance bond project that we did bid out and award to NCI Construction. They are mobilized, ready to go, kind of waiting on a weather break to get going on their underground utilities and foundations. Still expect to be done by that milestone date of 2/28/25. So facilities here can start using that space. Financial update, there's not much to update on phase 2. We don't have any changes to approve this month. We definitely will have some coming through next month, but phase 2 committed cost is stayed pretty level at that $28,974,000 number. The couple tweaks you see here to that financial data on the bottom of that box. Phase 3, that $2.5 million estimate number relates to some work we were contemplating doing at the Armour Elementary School to update ceilings and lighting and potentially the playground there. And we've basically fit that in. That would be work that would occur next summer. Phase 4 is now what we've gotten used to calling phase 3, which is the Union Pleasant large project that would occur in 26 and 27. We did get our updated design development estimate, which means basically the 60% plans that are complete in from our team and based on Gordon Jones' update on the drawings. And that's still tracking under the budget number that was originally 23 is now showing as 21,426,000.
So are we not seeing the historical cost escalations that we saw in phase one?
We're definitely not as concerned carrying as large of escalation factors through these estimates. I think it has slowed. We've seen some evidence of, I guess, more interest in bids too, which is driving down the number. There's more people looking for work now, so it seems like it's trending in the right direction.
Positive for us, yeah.
The lighting at Armour, that phase 3, is that what, are we voting on that? Is that what's on the agenda? Is that the same thing, or?
No, that's
right?
the purchase of the lights.
Oh, okay.
Change management, just real quick, there hasn't been a lot of changes there. Again, no new change orders this month. We have advanced the contract allowances, which is that pot of money we have built in upfront with the contractors when we negotiate. We settle on the final contract values. We're about 60% of the way through that, so 39% remaining there. That's still a healthy margin, along with the contingency. Still having a balance of roughly $1 million right now. Again, when we have a few change orders come through the next month or two, that number will be reducing, but it's still in a good place for the high school mechanical upgrades happening through phase 2 here this coming year. Other than that, really there's nothing else to report here. We'll be continuing on in high school where we can and ramping up into that major mechanical upgrade, swap over to the new boiler systems in the high school next summer. Just looking at the work we've completed here recently, up here in the pictures. So what you're looking at for these pictures here are your high school fitness and weight rooms. Over winter break, we were able to get the structural steel up that will accommodate new air handling units in those spaces. Obviously, some of the electrical work that was done there too to prepare for that steel work. All right, this is classroom 151 in the high school. So if you recall, we elected to give these rooms a bit of a facelift beyond the original scope. Went after this room on this past break, took up the new flooring base and installed all new carpet tile and base, and along with those fin tube covers, which were a particular challenge because those walls are curved. Those things don't come manufacturing curves. Looks great. We'll be going after what we call a sister room, I guess, right next door, 151 or 153 in the next break. This is just a few more miscellaneous pictures. The top left is actually art room 136, where we again had to put up some new structural steel to accommodate future new mechanical units going up on that roof. Top right there is actually just, looks like a pretty boring picture, but it's actually new sanitary piping Boyer High School kitchen. We're having a lot of issues there with leaking traps and leaking pipes that were quite literally bursting open just from being antiquated. So we had our plumbing contractor over winter break replace all of that for the kitchen there at the high school. And then the bottom two pictures are of the metal casework that went in throughout the 140s and 240, 250 rooms. That is now complete throughout those classrooms.
Is that true for all the casework we were missing? So it's all of that?
So the high school metal casework for the 13 rooms that we were hitting mechanically over this past summer, that's done. In the elementary school, wooden casework is largely complete. We're just waiting on a few changes we decided to make after looking at the substantial complete product with the teachers. This schedule update real quick. So again, we're showing the elementary school is wrapping up for phase 2. Substantial completion, still tracking to complete the project related to the high school in September 25. And then closing the project out and getting the final cost report out the door in 25. Phase 3 again relates to the work we're planning now for Armour Elementary, to include a playground upgrade and new ceiling and lighting in a lot of classrooms. This is going out to SED on an expedited review basis in February. That would allow us to turn around a bid period in May and get that work done over the course of the summer and close out before the end of 25. And then phase 4 on a similar time period right now, which is again the larger Union Pleasant project that would occur over 26 and 27. Same design period going out for standard SED review, which would get us on track to have a bid in the fall of 25. get awards out and start that construction spring of '26 and wrap it up in the summer of '27. And this is just an even broader look at your overall capital improvement project procurement schedule. So Gordon Jones is currently actively in the midst of a new building condition survey, wrapping that up by fall 25. This would put us in a good position to discuss all this and be prepared for a new referendum vote in the fall of 26, or potentially summer of 26 if we're moving along at a good clip. Setting us up for a construction period that would begin in 2028, summer 28. And right now projecting out that being a 3-summer project. That'll be up for debate a bit. And on that schedule, we'd be closing out the next referendum project in 2030. That's it. Any questions?
Thank you. Good. Thanks, Sean. Okay, moving on to Mr. Adams' initial
Here we go.
update.
I guess it started before. Thank you, Mr. Flynn. And thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Charlotte Ave, you knocked it out of the park. Apologies for the weather that didn't allow your great students to join us, but it was great to hear about the zones of regulation, the CAS buddies, and all the good things that are happening at Charlotte. And thanks for the welcome you've given us. I want to thank everybody for the support that they've given me throughout the time from July 9th when it was announced that I would take the position this year, and from staff, from community members, from kids, and certainly from the board members themselves. The idea of working with you excited me, and then the idea to be able to have individual conversations with you over the time, from my being named as taking the helm or taking the role to now, it's just filled me with a lot even more excitement and energy for the work that's to come, and it is work that is to come. I did quite a bit of reading in terms of trying to prepare myself for it, prior to July also, but certainly it sort of redoubled my efforts as the time grew closer. And one of the books that I was reading talked about how a board of education really has to have a shared moral imperative. And the book kept mentioning shared moral imperative, and I kept reading it, and I said, did they ever tell me what that shared moral imperative was? So I had to look back, and no, they hadn't. They were waiting for the big reveal, and I sort of knew what it was going to be. But that shared moral imperative is that they're going to make every student's educational experience as great as it can be. And that's what you do, and that's what our conversations are all about. That's the commitment to make every student's educational experience as great as it can be. I feel really fortunate to be able to have had individual conversations with you, but then be able to be part of this table that has those conversations as well, and to be able to work with district leadership and all throughout the district. I think we're really blessed to have a vision that's been wholly adopted, and that vision of we're going to educate modern thinkers who create, care, solve, and discover. I think back to, here's the embarrassment time, I think back to when Emma was a 7th grader. I'm so sorry for doing this to you right now. It's a good thing, I promise. And it's like, how do you create the conditions where students are going to create, care, and solve, and discover? Well, probably my 2nd month, if that, as middle school principal, Emma and two of her friends, and I think it was Allison and Greta, came to me and said, we need to do something. They'd heard we were going to have a speaker named Ken Nwadike, the Free Hugs guy, who was going to come in and talk to us. And they were inspired by that. And they wanted 3 7th graders. They came to me and said, we want to put something on every single student's locker so that when they come into school the next week or whatever it is, the 7th graders are typically ambitious. They think something's going to happen like in a minute. It probably took us a few weeks of planning to make sure that it was going to happen. But it was just them, and they recruited some of their friends, and they cared enough about their fellow classmates that they wrote this positive affirmation. They then affixed to the lockers of 775 students of the middle school at that time. How do you create that environment where that sort of thing happens? Well, you saw a little bit of it at Charlotte with their presentation, and you see it all over the district. You heard about the visits to Boston Valley. You've heard about the visits to Armour and Union Pleasant that we had. And I think that is, we're able to, at the middle school, we were able to build upon that foundation. At the high school, they do even more. So you heard about what Emma and her friends are planning for their clothing swap and the way she expressed that. I happened to be at that meeting where that idea came up, and it was one of those, is that really going to happen? And then I get to sit at the board table and hear that it's really going to happen. I'll highlight another senior, Michael Gamolka, who was mentioned briefly as well. What's it?
Junior, but yeah.
Junior, sorry. Oh my gosh, I've aged him differently. My apologies on that. So, Michael, who rallied, honestly, the cafeteria full of people, full of students from disparate groups from all over the school, all sorts of staff, and they made those, however many cards they made for those in the service right around Christmas, and it was an absolute celebration. Well, how do you create that? How do you create that environment? It doesn't just happen. And I'm also and as I look even further, I just remind people of what our strategic priorities are. We want to create educational opportunities for people. We want to make sure that our communication is good. We want to make sure that the community is involved. And we want to make sure that our budget management is sound. We want to make sure that our facility planning is great. And we want to make sure that the place is safe. All right. And that, as I'll borrow Danielle's line, it's progress, not perfect. Was that the line for it? And that's what we're heading towards. That's what our mark is. For that. And to say that I am inspired by the people around me, both at the table and here, is an understatement. To say I'm thankful for my family, who are probably watching from home, cheering me, because they're of the age where that makes sense to do to dad before they go back to school. I'm just indebted to all of you. So I want to thank you, and I'm looking forward to all the work that's to come, and the effort that we're going to make on behalf of the kids at Hamburg. So thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Okay, moving on to before I move on to the business items, though, the one item I wanted to be, Dave Lowry from Erie County Association of School Boards and our Erie One BOCES rep, right? Or what?
NISBA Area One.
NISBA, that's what I was trying to think of. NISBA Area One Director is here to visit with us today, so just wanted to point out his.
He doesn't want to go home with.
Okay, so moving on to, let's start with our consent items. At this time, any member can make a request to withdraw a specific item from the consent items F and financial items G. Is there any such request at this time?
No.
Not going to have a motion to approve all consent items F2 through G4.
So moved.
So moved by Dave. Second by Laura. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes. Pretty much our standard stuff, just some personnel changes, extended field trips for the wrestling team for a tournament they went to, and just really a couple of amendments.
Yeah, can I give a quick acknowledgement to the folks who put in their retirement?
Sure can.
Is that okay? So part of that, the approval of those consent items, I want to congratulate Mike Sparsino and Carolyn Wellington. They put in their retirement. I want to thank them for their service. They'll still be working here with us till the end of June, but I just want to acknowledge them. And also Mary Beth Murray. She put in that she will be retiring, not for another calendar year, but I want to acknowledge her efforts at Union Pleasant. So we appreciate that and them.
Thanks. Moving on to our action items. Item H1, can I have a motion to approve the Hamburg Central School District report of collected taxes for Hamburg, Eden, Boston, and Orchard Park for the 24-25 school year?
So moved.
So moved by Cam. Second by Rich.
I have a question about that.
Yep.
What happens for the uncollected taxes at this point?
Erie County pays them.
You get paid.
Erie County just like straight up pays them?
Yes, then they chase the.
They collect for
They handle the collections.
Oh. Okay, good for us.
It's good question.
I mean, it is good for us, but I mean, like in perpetuity, like I know like the asphalt people got at least $40,000 unpaid. Like, what do we do about that?
Erie County pays it.
Erie County pays it, and it's we don't have the ability to pursue those. Erie County has the legal ability to, you know, put tax liens and stuff, that kind of thing on. So they chase them, they give us the money, so then it's up to them to regain it however they're gonna regain it.
They have the leverage, right?
They have the leverage.
We can't withhold anything.
Yeah, I mean, they have the tax lien, so, you know, like if they were to sell the property and it's a tax lien, then whatever, you know, the funds need, you know, funds from the sale, before it can be transferred has to be satisfied. We don't have the ability to do that.
Oh, I know we don't. It's not like we've got like tax police hanging out
No.
somewhere. Just,
And so there's have been some payments that have come in since this report as well.
oh,
So they've
that's
come in
nice.
December and some in January. just
I was
late
curious,
payers.
like, how long does it take for those warrants to like, do we like sit there and go, oh no, Erie County, please give us your
No,
delayed?
we'll get them
Okay, I don't know how long we wait for
usually
that.
by the spring.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to interrupt the flow. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Item H2, can I have a motion to approve a consulting agreement between the Hamburg Central School District and Lawley LLC effective January 15th, 2025 through January 14th, 2027?
So moved.
So moved by Cam.
Second.
Second by Dave. Questions, comments?
We're
This is,
comfortable, we're gonna have a better relationship here and
With,
better partnership.
Yep, absolutely.
are we looking at a savings too, possibly, or?
That's one of the main drivers, absolutely.
I think it was also service driven as well.
Absolutely.
right?
It is a team approach, and we're really optimistic about that.
any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes. Item H3, can I have a motion to approve the revised 24-25 school calendar? So moved by Laura, second by Cam. Questions, comments?
This has to do with the Lunar New Year?
It does.
Yes. Yes, we had it as it was always a day off for the students, but we were gonna do professional development, but with it now being a holiday on the state calendar, most other districts are not having staff come in, so we had to revise it.
Last year was on a Saturday, so it didn't hit us. Next year, it's actually our February break, so it's not gonna impact us either.
Nice.
Any other questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes. Item H4, can I have a motion to approve a resolution authorizing the Hamburg Central School District to enter into a contract with RIC 1 Risk Operations Center for the provision of vendor management and data security services to the district as listed? So moved by Laura. Second by Cam. Questions, comments?
Can we talk about this a little bit more?
Sure.
Explain it.
So every piece of software where student data is shared with the vendor, we have to have what they call an educational law 2D agreement with them, so that the vendor is protecting all the data. And if there's a data breach on the vendor's end, they're responsible for all the costs that would go along with recovering it.
And this isn't a new concept. We've done this in the past, right?
So we've done it in the past. This concept is newer because each school district has to come to an agreement on an educational law 2 agreement for each software that we sign on for. So we may have software that is exactly like Frontier and Orchard Park, and we all have to do it individually. This way, if one of us signs on, we can piggyback off that agreement and say, yep, this meets the Ed Law 2D. We're not spending any additional time or money on it.
Okay. Thank you.
Or some district in.
Yeah, could go across the state.
Right,
Albany
anywhere.
or whatever,
Yep.
say Rochester.
These participating both.
Yep.
And these agreements normally school council has to review.
Many of the ones that we do for local purchases. Yes.
Right. So this kind of eliminates that in that
Yes.
we can just glom on. We don't have to have it attorney reviewed or anything. It's been reviewed. We can,
Good, it's clever.
I like it.
Smart, whoever thought that.
Long time coming, to be honest with you.
Any other questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes. Item H5, can I have, we do have a change order. Can I have a motion to approve change order 15301 for the capital outlay project work?
So moved.
So by Cam, second by Laura. Questions, comments?
Now, this is not part of the capital project, this So this comes out of,
This capital outlay, that was approved, those are
right,
projects
this
up
at
to
Unit
100,000.
Pleasant.
Yeah, we're adding,
Yes.
we're able to add 3 rooms to it.
But we're still within the.
Correct.
the-
Yeah, we're
we're
still
still
well
within
below
the
that.
capital outlay limit, right?
All right.
Any other questions, comments?
Where are these lights going? Just remind me again.
Unit Pleasant.
Unit Pleasant.
No, this is the
That's the
capital,
next
so
one.
these are the ceilings.
Right.
No, they
Sorry.
do light, right?
The
No,
lights
this
will
is-
come, the award of the bid for the lights will be next.
That's next.
Oh,
This is replacing like the ceiling tiles.
This is the outlay one.
my bad.
Okay.
Sorry.
Any other questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Yeah. I was looking
Item passes. Item H6, can I have a motion to approve the bid for lighting work, awarding the bid to NOCO Energy Solutions totaling $266,595?
So moved.
So moved by Mary,
Second.
second by Dave. Questions, comments? Now you can ask.
Where is this going again?
So it's just every school.
Oh, okay.
This is a grand total of all the lights in the district,
Just all of them.
pretty much.
Dope.
Like, we're basically turning all the lights that we have into LED panels.
Love that.
And the rebate, when does that come to us?
After
As soon as the building is done, they come in, they take a tour, and
make sure everything is done.
So everything has to be installed before we get the rebate.
yep.
Is this eatable?
It's a rebate, actually.
Well, the net is aided through the capital project.
Oh,
So when we get the rebates, we have to report that as additional revenue to the state.
That's gonna
So
be
you
good.
can't like double dip.
Right.
It's
Too bad.
I know, right? It was easy.
I don't know how much it was. You want to talk more about that?
She's talking about electric.
Any
buses.
questions, comments? We're not talking about electric buses. All in favor? Opposed? Item passes. That's the end of our action items. Moving on to public expression. We do have 2 people that have signed up. Just as a reminder, some topics are not permitted to be discussed in public forum. For example, any topic related to an employee or the one that can be applied or implied to be related to an employee, special education placements, individual student situations, etc. If the topic is inappropriate for the public forum, the board president, myself, will instruct you not to speak, but rather present your concerns in writing for the board's discussion in executive session. First, we have Jess Reyna.
So first of all, thank you, Mr. Adams, for giving us such a nice speech and welcome.
Right.
We're happy to have you. So the reason I'm here tonight, some of you may know, but many of you may not. I have been a coach for Boys on the Right Track for 7 seasons, and they were paused in the fall, but planning to come back in the spring, and then we were notified in November that Boys on the Right Track has closed their doors. I have run with at least 15 at the lowest, but on the high end, I had 25 boys with me running spring and fall. They are the kids I see in the cafeteria, and all fall long they were asking me, when are we running? When does Boys on the Right Track start? And I kept telling them, spring. And then we got the news, and they're having a tough time, and so am I, because those are some of my favorite memories with these kids. So I have so much free time, and I decided that I was not just gonna accept that, because these kids, you see the impact that being with boys of the same age, being with kids in not a structured setting, like you know what you're doing, but it's really just, you get to make friendships and create connections. And when you're having a bad day, you have a bunch of kids there to lift you up. And then you get to run together. And running is one of those things that even if you're not an athlete, you can do. And it doesn't always feel good. It feels bad sometimes, but you can do it. And I think when you push through that and you achieve something, it gives you this sense of like just empowerment, because you did that. No one else did that for you. So last night at our executive board meeting, I talked to the PTSA board about me starting the Bulldog Run Club. Our PTSA insurance does cover after school programs that the PTSA runs. And I know at Charlotte, I want this spring to have a Bulldog Run Club. I will keep the boys with me just because that's what I know, and we can change the format. But Marissa Watkins is a level 5 teacher here, and she's done Girls on the Run, and we love the program, but sometimes the cost is just really tough for a parent to swing, and sometimes jumping through those extra hoops to apply for the scholarship or this or that is just not in their capability at that point. Like, we're all kind of maxed out. So she would love to run it with the girls here. And so I see Bulldog Run Club at every building eventually, but it's just a place where we can provide an after-school activity for kids to get together. We're working towards that end of season 5K. I'm also planning a 5K for the end of the school year because we need more stuff for our kids, but it's just, it can be super low cost. It can potentially be free if we can work on some sponsorships, but it's just something that we can't not have. When we talk about youth mental health and just making sure that they have safe people and they have outlets, this is one of those things, especially for boys, that they need. They need to move their bodies. They need to make connections beyond like Fortnite and all of that. So this is like a passion project. I just see it happening. I would love for the district to support and collaborate, because with Marissa and I both being employees, we are fingerprinted and background checked. We want to make sure whoever does this at other buildings, those kids are safe with them. So there's a lot of steps probably to figure out in the next month so we can put it out to families and let them sign up. But at least at Charlotte Avenue, we will have Bulldog Run Club. I'm hoping that Union Pleasant will join with Scott Silverman because he's done Boys on the Right Track there. I'm hoping that every building, at least elementary, will join on, because those grade 3 through 5 kids, they've got a lot going on, they've got a lot of changes, and I just think they need more opportunities to connect with people over something other than Robux and V-Bucks and the Bucks. So I hope to bring you more next meeting, but this is something I'm super excited about, and I just want to make sure that we're not losing opportunities for our kids. So Bulldog Run Club, here we go.
Sounds great. Thanks, Jess. Sue Biter?
Hi, I'm Susan Biter. I'm the treasurer of the Hamburg School Music Booster Club, and I wanted to give you guys an update. I didn't really write anything formal this month, but since the last time we gave an update, which I think was at our November Board of Education meeting, we've really done a lot of great things, and it's kind of exciting to be shifting from the phase of like starting up the club and incorporating in all the paperwork and the grungy stuff to be doing some of the fun stuff now. So we just want to let you know what we've been up to. In November and December, we got to go to all the schools for their chorus, band, and orchestra and select ensemble concerts. And we got to speak to the audiences at the concerts and talk about our mission of promoting and supporting music education and music performance K to 12. That was a really, we just want to say congratulations to all the student musicians and all the music teachers for a really great concert season. If you guys were at any of the concerts, you know how enthusiastic those events are and how wonderful they are for the community. And we only had a couple, I think, that got snowed out and rescheduled. So it was a marathon for us, but we really enjoyed being there. The second thing we wanted to tell you about is we raised $1,000 from Giving Tuesday, and we raffled off a Keon Coleman autographed helmet. He's a wide receiver.
Own it. Number 0. Yeah,
so I know 2 things about him. Sorry, music person, not a football person. You can be both, though. Third thing we wanted to tell you about, as part of our concert efforts, we brought a wish list board with us. We had asked teachers to submit items $250 and below that we could kind of crowdfund in our community, and we're really excited to announce that we're fulfilling $2,000 worth of wish list items valued $250 and below. That's 23 items that came from community sponsorships, 31 that were matching with funds from the organization, and sadly 5 items that we weren't able to fulfill, but we'll keep those in mind as we go forward and hopefully find some sponsorship for that. And then the last thing we wanted to let you know about is we're opening our first round of music classroom grants on January the 20th. So that's what we've been up to. Thanks.
Very nice.
Okay, that's who signed up for public expression. We do have a couple executive session topics, just so everyone here knows. That's the end of our public comments. We will come back just to adjourn, but no further business will be done. So at this point, can I have a motion to enter into executive session for the purposes of discussing the employment history of particular people employed by the district and discussing Child Victim Act cases pending against the district?
So moved.
Moved by Ashley.
Second.
Second by Mary. All in favor? Closed. We are in executive. Thanks, everyone.
We're coming back here.